Hello everybody, it's Got That Funk, and I'm once again here in my body piercing studio because it's that time of the month for Tales from the Studio. I believe last month in episode 1 I promised you that this time I was going to talk a little bit about the man who has two. And I'm sure some people were wondering, does he mean two cocks? Yep, I mean two cocks, two phalli. Phallici? Phalluses? Phallii. Two dicks, two penises, all right? Now, he doesn't really have two, of course. That's a birth defect I've never even really heard of. No, he actually had one when he was born, the same as I did. And then about 30 years ago, plus or minus, he started splitting it down the middle. And he has split his right the way down to the base, okay? All the way to the base. Now, people who have such an extreme body modification, thank goodness, are very rare. So when I say usually, you take that term advisedly, but usually when people have a split willy, they only split it sort of halfway down and they leave the trunk in one piece so that it will still function as a sexual organ. Well, this particular customer split his halfway down, and then when it stopped functioning as a sexual organ, he carried on and split it right the way down to the base. And so he's got what kind of looks and smells like a woman's private parts at the front here. And then there's like a dick coming off this side and a dick coming off that side. Okay. To make matters worse, okay, he's got a tattoo of some spread wings going across here and a dragon going on the outside of one of his willies and a dragon going on the outside of the other one of his willies. And he's got the same fucking dragon tattooed on the inside half of the inside of the split. And his balls are tattooed, so his balls are like purple. He's got all this like purpley, bluey, greeny wings and stuff going on with this purple serpent going down either side of his willy. It's fucking hanging, all right? And I have to deal with this guy several times a year. Now, the very first time I had to deal with him, it was really traumatic, okay, for me personally. Thank goodness such extreme customers are extremely rare. But when I had to do what I had to do, he came in because he wanted some barbells put in both of his, both of his halves, which I did. But to do what I had to do, I had to be sort of this far away from it with my face so that I could accurately see what I was doing. And it was at that point that I noticed that it smelled very much like a woman's private parts. And when you actually look at where the split is, where the two at the base, it kind of looks disturbingly similar to a woman's private parts. And that fucked my head up for ages. Now, I was so traumatized by it, I asked him if he would mind if I spoke to my missus about the situation and to some of my friends, and he said he didn't mind as long as I didn't mention his name, which is why I don't mind talking about it to y'all either. Anyway, so I mentioned it on my live journal, which I used to keep at the time, and one of my friends in live journal said, oh, you know, I can barely understand why someone would put a ring in their penis, but why would anyone mutilate themselves like that? And at the time, I was like, whoa, 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 whoa. Don't use the word mutilation because you don't know this guy. You've not seen what he's done. You know, you really shouldn't jump to those kinds of conclusions. But it occurs to me since then that mutilation is a perfectly fair word for it because what he's done, his willy no longer functions and it no longer looks like what it actually is. And if you can't recognize it and it doesn't do what it's supposed to do, I guess it's fair to say that it's been mutilated. But I try really hard not to be judgmental about things, especially about body modifications and stuff. And I certainly do my very utmost best. I might, you know, have my opinions about what it looks like or whatever, but I try not to make any kind of judgments about his character or the psychological reasons why he may have done this to himself. I just deal with him as a person who needs some assistance with what he wants. Now, I've had people ask me over the years, Paul, why do you deal with this guy if it's so traumatic for you? And the fact is, you know, number one, I'm a professional. People come to me for a service, the kind of service that if you didn't come to me, you might not be able to get from someone else. So that's reason number one. Reason number two, in this man's case, you know, he's 34, 35 years older than me. He's not really afraid of very much. He's like 81, 82 years old. And basically, if he couldn't come to me to have the things done that he wants to do, he would try to do them to himself. And I just worry that if he did that, he would really, really hurt himself. Um, so he comes to me, and the bond of trust that exists between us is another reason why I do it. And in fact, that's one of the reasons I do body piercing in general, because you build up a bond of trust with someone that is unique in my experience, and it really gives my job a sense of purpose and meaning. And thank goodness, like I say, thank goodness customers like him are in the minority. Now, when it comes to the term mutilation, you know, I've had people accuse me of mutilating myself because of my ear. I mean, have a look at my ear, if I can get close enough to the camera. Can you see it? I don't think that my ear is at all mutilated. Not at all. It's decorated, not mutilated. That's my opinion. Someone who's against body piercing, though, looks at my ear and says it's mutilated. But according to my own definition, as I say, you can still recognize it as an ear, and it still functions as an ear, so therefore, I don't think it's mutilated. But the question, you know, why do people mutilate themselves, is a perfectly valid question, which I try very hard not to answer when it comes to my own customers. Because we can only guess at what goes on inside other people's heads, and to leap to conclusions, I think, is unwise at best. And, you know, I've been piercing now for nearly 12 years. And whenever someone says to me, you know, why did you get this done or that done in your ear, or any other body piercings that I might have, you know, I say, well, getting pierced is weird in general. I mean, if you think about it, why do we do it? Why do you even get your earlobes pierced, like the regular normal piercing? Why? Why open up your flesh and stick metal into it? Why? I've pierced 22,000 people. I've been doing this job for a long time, and I still cannot really adequately answer the question why we do it. You know, there are the throwaway answers. It's tradition, it's fashion. You know, human beings have been getting pierced since before written language, for goodness sake. So body piercing is nothing new. But what I've never really understood is why. Primitive cultures, in quotation marks, have very specific reasons why they pierce themselves. You know, usually it has to do with rites of passage, from being young into becoming an adult. But it's not always the case. But in our modern culture, it's not just fashion, and thank goodness, it's mostly not mutilation. So I just want to throw those things out there. I'm not going to get time to talk about the other thing I promised in this month's episode. We'll have to save that for next month's episode. So this has Got That Funk. Stay tuned in September for another episode of Tales from the Studio, and I will try to make that one a little bit more lighthearted and fun. Peace.